Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome to the live stream tonight, everybody. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes, as usual. You might be wondering, Ashton, you're not wearing a button down today. And I say, well, fuck you for judging me. But number two, it's freezing ass cold outside. I don't think you guys realize how cold it is outside. It's so cold outside right now that Lulu won't even go outside. She's a husky who's got like 3 layers of fur. She put her head outside and was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go back onto the bed. So anyway, that's why we're dressed like this. Also, say goodbye to the glasses, chat. Ooh. Tomorrow, new glasses. In fact, I was hoping to get them today so that I could surprise you guys. But no, they were closed probably because it's freezing ass cold outside. So tomorrow, I'm going to have new glasses. I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are excited about it too. Okay, next thing, guys. Alien Invasion has been canceled. Alien Invasion has been canceled. If you did not know, there was some rumor going around that Alien Invasion was going to happen yesterday because of some prophecy by Cliff High about Donald Trump being on Joe Rogan. Yeah, it's as convoluted as you could possibly imagine. So aliens decided it was too cold. They weren't down for it. They're going to try back in a few years, 2027 or whatever. I don't know. Who gives a shit? But there has been a lot of UFO sightings, and everybody's been asking me, Ashton, what do you think about all the UFO sightings? I don't really know, and I don't really care, guys. Truth is, we already have the best possible videos. Like, quite literally does not get better than the MH370 videos. And the big reason why I've avoided pushing UFO videos on my content is because every time I post something that's anomalous, I got 1 million people going, that's a fish, that's a balloon, that's fireworks, that's whatever. And you know what? They might even be right. I just post the shit because it's cool. But it goes to show that the MH370 videos cannot be easily dismissed. Because people dismiss my underwater one. They say it's some kind of silverfish or something like that. They see this weird thing that's like being shot down. They say it's flares. So it goes to show that it's extremely difficult to judge UFO videos because so much of what we see can be explained through other stuff. However, these videos, there is no other explanation for these videos. These videos, there is no prosaic explanation. Either this is the most elaborate hoax that's ever been perpetuated on the internet in the history of the internet, or these videos are what really happened to MH370, and it's just full-on disclosure of exotic technology. There is no in-between on this one. Recently, earlier today, just not that long ago, I posted a link of the biggest Yahtzee moments related to MH370. We're going to take a look at those moments, maybe even show a couple of clips of them. because I just want to bring people down to earth in terms of just how much overwhelming evidence that we have for this video being accurate, being actually what happened to the plane. And somebody mentioned earlier, just not a few seconds ago, actually, about Chris Leto. Actually, I was going to play a clip from Chris Leto because it actually feels like people were blaming me for Chris Leto going like insane, where he had to go on a mental health break a year ago. And honestly, it does kind of feel like we had an impact on Chris Leto because he's all in on the idea of the ether now. He's all in on plasma universe. And you know what? Chris Leto's right. Chris Leto is right. He's 100% correct. And of course, people attacked him over his mental health stuff, which is honestly disgusting, but that's what they do. You know, there is no bar too low when people are pushing advanced physics on the world, that people will, you know, discredit you any way they can, guys. Okay, so let's take a look. Guys, the last 24 hours. Oh, this is interesting. I did not see this comment. Thank you very much for the donation, by the way. Do you see that Kash Patel was responsible for assigning targets for SEAL Team 6 in 2014? Wow. That's impressive. There's a lot of stuff that has been mentioned to me that I have not been able to corroborate. A lot of stuff where people will, and sometimes you guys see me quote tweet them where somebody's like, this video is 100% real. I know this video is real, or my dad worked on some secret stuff and they know the video is real. I'm not even including any of those in the list of Yahtzee moments. There is like a half dozen or more of those types of moments that have happened that seemed highly credible, that did not seem like they were people just scamming. There probably was some people scamming in there as well. So let's go to the list of the moments, guys. And if you guys have other ones, please, you can bring them up now. If you have other questions, now's a good time to ask them as well. Also, I'm going to finally address a lot of my replies later after the live stream. So if you've been looking for a response from me, take a look at your replies after the live stream. Okay, guys. A lot of people think the MH370 videos are fake. Of course they do. I mean, look at what we're looking at in this video. We're looking at magical technology. It's only natural for people to look at this and think that this must be fake. You can't blame people for that. Now, you can blame people for not doing any research whatsoever, which you see a lot of, where people go, oh, it was a pilot suicide that crashed in the ocean. And you'd be like, what evidence is there of that? None. None at all. So, yes, it seems difficult to believe that this could be real. But this is absolutely real. This is real. I don't care if people don't want to believe. That's fine, so long as people accept that I have been saying that this video is real, so that when 10 years goes by, 20 years goes by, and people finally accept these videos are real, that I'm going to get the credit for being the person that tried to push them forward. Simple as that. That's all I really want, okay? I've tried to push these forward, try to get them into the zeitgeist. I want to get credit for that. I'm not saying that I did all the work by myself. Of course, social media helped and what have you, and MH370X helped in a big way. I just don't want people. I already know what the next, basically what I'm getting at is I already know what the next play is here. The next play is that people are going to say that, like, yes, Ashton got lucky when he was right on the science, but that doesn't mean the videos are real or whatever. I already see all that bullshit happening, right? We're not playing any of those games. So you can believe the videos are fake, go nuts. Just when it becomes self-evident that they're real, you know the person to give the credit to. It's me, it's MH370X, it's the people that have been promoting us. Okay, there we go. Yeah, if it was teleported, where did it teleport to? Well, obviously we don't have two other videos on the other side. So we don't know exactly where it teleported to. That's not possible for us to know. There's no publicly available footage that shows where the plane went to. The circumstantial evidence will indicate this plane did get to Diego Garcia. So if you're somebody that believes the plane was remote controlled to Diego Garcia or what have you, that's still possible. Absolutely still possible. I'm not ruling any of that out. Okay. What happened to the passengers? I don't know. Are they alive? I don't think so. Do I have any way to prove that? No, I do not have any way to prove that either. So you're never going to hear me give you psychic explanations. You're never going to hear me tell you stuff like the plane was taken by the, what do they call it? The Galactic Federation because the people inside were sinners or whatever. Like, that's all unknowable shit. You're not going to hear me claim unknowable stuff. When I make claims, it's based on evidence that is physical evidence or logically deduced conjecture based on other evidence. It's just what I do. Okay. Okay. I believe it's teleportation, but it could also be annihilation. We can't rule out annihilation. If you can teleport something, why can't you annihilate it? Well, conservation of energy is the big issue. So, you know, if we are adhering to conservation of energy, then the energy has to go somewhere. A plane must go somewhere. That plane can't just disappear. It has to reappear somewhere else. Okay. Now, other stuff that's listed here. So let's just start with the big hitters. Edward C. Lynn, finding out last October that I could actually find out who the person was that leaked these videos. You guys, like, I keep overlooking this, even though how huge it is. This is why it's number one on the list. People are like, oh, you have no chain of custody for the videos. And I go, I don't? I'm literally telling you that this is the name of the guy that leaked the videos. Shouldn't that at least warrant somebody going to try to find the guy? If it turns out Edward C. Lynn's not the guy, this is a pretty big blemish on my credibility. It would be a good way to discredit me if it turns out that Edward C. Lynn has nothing to do with these videos because he checks every single box, and we've narrowed down the window of time when he was on this secret spy plane program to 1 month before and after the videos, before and after the plane disappeared. I mean, he's the guy. So just let that sink in for a second. I've identified the name of the leaker and said his name on every major podcast I've ever been on. And I got in touch with his lawyers, and the lawyers will not talk to me unless he has signed a release. Now, let me just let that sink in again. The lawyers, his lawyers, will not talk to me. I've reached out to the law firm unless he signs a release. Don't you think that if he wasn't the guy, that he would have reached out to his lawyers and been like, hey, there's this guy named Ashton Forbes who's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's saying that I committed the biggest act of, leak of military classified secrets in human history. Don't you think he would be like, hey, lawyer, if this guy ever reaches out to you, tell him to stop saying my name? Like if he didn't leak the videos, right? Like, wouldn't you think he would say that? I'm just saying, guys, if it was me and I committed some horrible crime against the United States and it's never been made publicly available, and some guy is coming out saying, like, this is what this guy leaked, this incredible footage is what this guy leaked. If I didn't leak that footage, I would be making damn sure that that guy knows that I didn't leak the footage, because I wouldn't want people out there thinking that I did this insane thing and leaked this incredible footage that's out there. But he's never done that. Never done that. Lawyers will not talk to me. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay. And again, this is for one thing I do want to point out. This is, I guess you could say, is me being egotistical or whatever, is that these videos would not be in the position that they are in today, right now, where people are considering them to be real, if it were not for me. So for the lame douchebag people on Reddit or whatever who are trying to make shit up about Ashton hasn't really done anything to this case, Ashton doesn't really deserve the credit or whatever. Nobody in this world deserves more credit than I do for these videos. That's like everybody. That's an objective fact. Nobody's put more time into these videos than me. And it's not not even really close. The next people are like JK Philly Fan and Arwin from MH370X. The amount of time and effort that Redditors have put in to these videos is practically nothing, given the totality of the evidence that we've discovered in the last year. Okay. So let's just accept that. Okay. You may not like me. You may think I'm arrogant or whatever, but if I were not pushing these videos would not be in the position they're in right now. They would be ignored. They would be forgotten. Nobody would be talking about them. Okay. Simple as that. When it comes to Edward C. Lynn, I did 2 weeks of research every night, hours of research every night, digging through every single person that's ever been charged with espionage or just willful retention of classified information. Literally going through lists one at a time, looking up all of the history about their cases. And then I found Edward C. Lynn. So there's a few things where nobody else can even claim credit, like the Edward C. Lynn stuff, the fire scenario, talking to Catherine T., the science, and figuring out how the science actually works. These are all things that myself and MH370X did. And I'm proud of that work because we've put together this list of Yahtzee moments based on it. So the next thing was the letter to Ashton Forbes. The letter to Ashton Forbes really brought it all together for us. I don't know if that was an intelligence operation, but the emotion that I get from the person that wrote the letter is that they want the truth to come out and that they see me as a venue for getting that truth out. It connected plasmoid research, exotic vacuum objects, to the espionage event, and connected the fire event to the orb videos in a way that I was previously not comfortable with, but presents it in a way where the CIA or the intelligence community is basically playing out the plot of a movie in real time, which I actually do believe is how they probably operate. And right here, I do kind of want to skip ahead to the Kevin Shipp clip because he explains how the CIA operates, which is plausible deniability. Plausible deniability.
Why is the CIA intent on destroying everywhere?
That's a fantastic question. When the CIA was created, in its charter, and Truman later regretted, as you know, that's in our book, he regretted creating it and said it was casting a shadow over our freedom. He deeply regretted even creating it. But in the CIA's charter, it gives then unbridled authority to do covert operations, supposedly accountable to the president, which they never are. And using the doctrine of plausible denial, which existed when I was there, the CIA can do anything it wants to any country and any person as long as the government isn't blamed for it. And they do.
Wow. The CIA can do anything they want to anybody they want as long as the government is not blamed for it. Do you guys understand the impact of that quote? Why is that quote so huge from Kevin Shipp? Because Kevin Shipp was in the CIA. He knows what they're capable of. He's essentially saying he knows we've been doing illegal shit that is only not illegal because it's extrajudicial. It's outside of the United States. Like that. And I've assumed that, but it's scary to hear somebody talking about it so upfront. Because you ask yourself, what happened with MH370? And you look at it and you go, this was an intelligence operation. This was a covert action. In fact, almost all of my FOIA requests into the plane have been rejected for exemption 1C, which is covert action. This is not a coincidence. MH370 was taken by the United States government. The United States intelligence agencies know exactly what happened to the plane. The CIA, the NSA, they know exactly what happened to MH370. John Brennan, James Clapper, President Barack Obama, they know 100% what happened to MH370. 100%. We've heard enough from CIA agents to be sure at this point. And so this leads to the next thing. Robert J. O'Neill, September 8th, makes a tweet saying MH370, that Malaysian flight, was never a mystery. It was never a mystery. And that it was always a warning to China. And then he goes on Alex Jones. Let's listen to the clip of him on Alex Jones.
What do you think Trump will do? Because Trump says he'll end this day one. The U.S. pays for 90% of it. I think he can.
He's going to be the adult in the room. He's basically everything from the Malaysian flight that went away. I'm convinced that was a shot at China. Don't mess with us. That's sixth-generation war. And that's all we got, though, because it's not the Biden.
Bro, he's casually talking about 6th generational warfare as if anybody watching has any fucking idea what that means. You guys know what 6th generational warfare means? I had to look it up. It's control over space and time. What? What? So you guys realize, like, I almost want to do a thread. I might do a thread tomorrow. If I don't do it tomorrow, I'll do it this weekend. I'm just going to do a thread of all these Yahtzee moments. I'm realizing how many clips I have now. I've got hundreds of clips. And anybody that's ever mentioned MH370, I basically have a clip of them in all contexts. This is the guy that killed Osama bin Laden. Okay, conspiracy theorists. I know some of you think that Osama bin Laden was dead. He didn't really shoot Osama bin Laden. Whatever. We're going with the guy that shot Osama bin Laden. That's what we're going to call him. Okay. It randomly brings up that the plane was 6th generational warfare. He says it again. Get ready. He says it again.
Running this. This is a lot of people in the House or whatever. But the thing with Russia, China, Taiwan, North Korea, Trump will come in and he will say, all right, everyone, first of all, everyone stand up as I sit down. I'm the adult in the room. Everyone knock it off, which they will. But right now, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, they've got until January 20th of next year. And they know it. It's coming. But again, the Malaysia flight too was one shot at China saying knock it off.
How's Alex Jones not like, bro? What do you mean? I interviewed with Alex Jones last October. That was from a couple months ago. How is Alex Jones not like, bro? I mean, I interviewed this guy and he was talking about the plane being orbed away for some espionage or something by the United States government. How does he not bring that up right there? Did Alex Jones forget that we interviewed and that we talked? Like, I'm like, what? Look, here's the whole interview.
Why we believe this is human technology is that everything in the evidence points to a situation where this is the U.S. government intervening with a plane that is potentially doomed.
That's me, chat. Look at my haircut back then. I looked so much younger back then. I mean, wild. Okay. So the second thing was Robert J. O'Neill. Robert J. O'Neill, whatever. John Ramirez. There's this interview with John Ramirez. I'm just going to show an excerpt from it because I actually don't think I clipped the whole thing. Here's this whole video of John Ramirez.
And
he's not even an interview. He's just literally like sitting in his closet or some shit wearing a suit, and he's just recording himself, asking himself questions. Look at this. There's nobody even asking him questions. He's just out here talking about how the CIA operates, and then randomly out here, he starts talking about plasma orbs.
Special Access Program process.
Where was it?
Way. We were both interested in UFOs because of extreme.
That's not it. Maybe I
reveal. But I returned it saying, I don't want this job.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you what he says. Basically, in here, he starts talking about like, oh, we see something on our sensors, like on a satellite video. And then we start asking questions like, oh, who has this plasma technology? And you're like, wait, what? Did he just say plasma technology? He's like, oh, the Russians couldn't have this, so who else could it be that has this? And he uses literal plasma weapons as his example. And then he tells a story about a ball of light and a ball of energy that he was on a passenger plane. So that's a GS-15 CIA agent, John Ramirez. Also corroborating the whole plasma and plasma orbs hypothesis. Shout out to Roy Herbert, physicist on Twitter, pretty active guy. Big follower and believer in dilation theory. To me, it's just a matter of the chicken or the egg in terms of which came first, space or time. Where do they come together? I don't know. Okay, next. Salvatore Pais. Okay, so we had the second interview with Salvatore Pais. I don't have a clip for this, but I'm going to get the clip probably tomorrow. Yeah, watch Hard Truths 5 with Roy D. Herbert. He was on. The clip with Salvatore Pais. where he says just from watching the orbs spin around the plane, he knew what was going to happen. That to me is wild. And now that I think about it, I should have asked a follow-up. Because if you're looking at this and you're going, okay, you knew what was going to happen just from watching this? Because the first time I watched this, I had no idea that a plane was about to blip out of existence. How would I ever even think that? I would have just thought these orbs are just like, I don't know, playing a game with the plane or something like that. So the fact that Sal knew that this was what was going to happen in this video really begs the question, what is Sal seeing with his eyes? The only way that Sal could come up with this, knowing what's going to happen here, is that he's seen something like this already. He's seen something like this. So that was huge because Sal as well, guys, I don't know if people realize, but Sal has 5 patents, 3 of which were approved by the Navy that are just straight up magical technology. And his Pais effect is where electromagnetic energy density reaches a level that's so high that it would break the Schwinger limit, tearing through the fabric of reality. Yeah, Edward C. Lynn is in his 40s. I think we know his exact age. I think he's a few years older than I am. We've tried to track him down. It's not super easy, and he might be on the move. So it's not going to be easy to find him. Don't worry, we're getting to that part. We're getting to the part with AARO. Okay, Bob Grenier. We played the clip on yesterday. Bob Grenier talking about magnetic monopoles, and he did this clip before I even knew who he was. That's the big rub about this clip. I'll just skip ahead here.
Monopoles part of the Collect 14 show. Is you would want to
So Bob made this video before I had any idea who he was. So this is huge because this is somebody looking at it who's recognizing the scientific concepts, and he realizes it's legit. So not only do we have Bob might be the #1 world expert on low energy nuclear reactions, which is cold fusion. And Sal Pais is a Navy engineer, active Navy engineer with patents that are underneath the Navy that are magical technology that we're staring at that technology in these videos. Okay. So we've got multiple scientists, real scientists, not like influencer scientists, but like real scientists that do real research, that do real experiments, that really work on real projects. Those kinds of scientists that are looking at these videos and they're going, looks right. Yeah, it does look like the Tesla logo. It's called the Ukana Vasara. I can't believe I memorized that, but I have. Like little Tesla sign. But what's really happening is it's a vortex. It's a vortex that's happening, just like with your bathtub when you pull the plug in your bathtub. Same concept. Somehow this vortex is keeping the ball of plasma stable. That's why it doesn't dissipate. Pretty neat, guys. The Cyber Network Engineer, space-based infrared system network engineer, who I have vetted. If you guys are trying to think that you found him or vetted him, what I'll tell you for sure is that you don't. You haven't found him. And if you're judging based on his comment that I didn't feel like removing, the comment is not nearly the full picture of that person's story. And I've chosen not to reveal more information about them or where they worked because I know exactly what will happen. Is that every debunker on the planet is going to start harassing them. They're going to start calling their work and bothering them and trying to find some way to discredit them because these people, these Redditors are extremely mentally ill. Again, I'm not putting them down. It's just a statement of fact. They're mentally ill. They've got weird mental issues going on and they have no problem harassing anybody that is a real person that puts their real name out there. They will dig through everything you've ever done to try to find anything they can do to discredit you. And the maximum irony of that is that all of them are deathly afraid of having their real identities being made public. I will never be debating against anybody that does not put their real name and real identity out there on their work. If you are an anonymous Redditor, anonymous debunker, you will never, ever, ever debate me if you are not showing your video, your face on the camera, and you're using your real name. If you do not have the balls to even do those basic things, your opinion means literally nothing. Means absolutely nothing. You're nobody. That doesn't matter. Your opinions don't matter. You have no relevant expertise. What you think you learned from Googling shit has no basis in reality. So that's why I haven't revealed the Cyber's network engineer, but I have made the network engineer available to the AARO. Because why do I care what random Redditor, debunker, idiots, and other morons from the UFO community think? I don't give a shit what any of those people think. Their opinions don't matter at all. They've already proven themselves to be complete idiots just by the fact they can't tell that the obviously authentic military videos are real military videos. So instead, I asked the Cyber's engineer if they would be willing to talk to the AARO. And they said, yeah, they would be willing. They weren't super comfortable with it, but they were willing to do it, which is huge. So I told the AARO guy, I said, hey, Lieutenant Colonel so-and-so, I said, this guy says the videos that they are 100% sure that we're looking at Cybers in that video. What I will say for the people that were confused about the thermal comment, we talked a little bit about that. Of course, I clarified that. I clarified all the questions. They were like, they basically said that all of these assets are communicating with one another. Like even the drone can communicate with the satellite. Because people don't realize how connected our military apparatus is. It's like a big internet. And most likely this sentient AI is controlling it. And it can quite literally operationalize assets on the fly. Also, one thing I'll say is that we talked about satellite capabilities. And what I'm going to say is that the satellites probably have more capabilities than what the public believes is possible, including the ability to potentially slow themselves down, to do whatever they need to do to make sure they get the best imagery possible. Pretty crazy. And here's the craziest part. That person couldn't tell me a lot. The Cybers engineer could not tell me that much because they had a non-classified gig in the late 90s, but then they did have classified work that they did related to satellites and potentially related to weaponry that they couldn't even comment on at all. So they actually knew even more than that, but they couldn't explain why because they still have NDAs that will last for the rest of their lives that they can't violate. Now, the reason why I bring this up is it's really important to understand that part of the reason why these people don't come out is because they would quite literally go to prison for the rest of their lives. And they also know that the media was not going to do them any favors. The media is not going to treat them like heroes. In fact, the media will crucify them and treat them like traitors. So people are afraid because they know how the real world works. And the good guys never win in the real world. So we have a Cybers network engineer. Now, AARO. The AARO, this is the biggest thing. A lot of people gave me crap about the AARO and said they're disinfo or whatever. Maybe. My true opinion of the AARO is they're not trying to really solve cases. And I think that the UFO community has given them a pretty bad rap. Some of it's warranted, but some of it's not. The UFO community is obsessed with aliens, and the AARO has not seen any evidence of actual aliens. They've seen no videos that show aliens in them. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that. And this, of course, enrages the UFO community who says, but all this history can't be a lie. And the AARO is just going, well, show me one video of aliens. Just one. And they're going, but Roswell, but all these abductions, but all this other stuff. Again, it doesn't matter. Show me one video of aliens. And the UFO community hates that. But it's not an unreasonable ask. That's why the MH370 videos are the UFO community's best, like just straight up silver platter. Here's UFO disclosure. The UFO community could not be a bigger joke by ignoring these videos because it's never going to get better than this. This is exactly what the AARO wants to see. The AARO wants to see military footage of a real event that they can corroborate. Because this is something that if you have to admit that this is real, then aliens being real aren't really that big of a jump anymore. If we can do this, if we got floaty balls of plasma that are floating around like this, Like, okay, now people are going to start wondering where this is coming from, how we got this technology. Aliens start to make a lot more sense. They're not necessary, but more palatable, let's say. Okay. So the big thing about the AARO is that the AARO has the capability to confirm the Sibbers video. They have the capability to confirm it. There's no doubt. What I will say is that I looked up this person, this lieutenant colonel with the AARO, and they're connected to all the right organizations. I'm not going to say exactly what their role is, but they're in the Pentagon. And when I look up like what area of the Pentagon they're in, it's like NGA, NRO, CIA, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, there's all the ones that you need to be connected to be able to confirm the videos are real. So the AARO, if they don't confirm that Sibbers video, then it shows that they've been sabotaging in their own investigation. Literally all that has to happen is they just have to go find out if that Sibbers video is real Sibbers system, this video here. All they have to do is go to the Sibbers system, pull it up, be like, hey, what does Sibbers video look like? Oh, does it look like this? Does it have this capability to do this at nighttime? I mean, it should be pretty clear. In 2014, did the Sibbers system look like this? Could you remote terminal into it from any computer on the world? You know, I think the answer is going to be yes. And then once that's proven true, then everything's real. Then it's all real because nobody faked this video somehow knowing how the Sibbers system operated. We didn't even know how the Sibbers system operated in 2024. So there's no random bored hoaxer that knew how the Sibbers system worked in 2014. And so this is what I told the AARO officers. I said, forget everything else. I just even forget Edward C. Lin. Although Edward C. Lin's the next best lead, and I really don't believe that they can't find Edward C. Lin. They've got to be able to find a guy that they put in prison. All they have to do is prove that this is Sibbers. If they just prove this is Sibbers, game over. Everything's real. We win. Videos are real. That's it. And from the best part about this is that we may have a different standard of proof than the AARO has. The AARO might be able to confirm that that's Sibbers video, but for them, that might not be enough to confirm the videos are real because they might want more of an elaborate chain of custody. Which at that point, like if we've had full motion satellite video, then I'm just like, okay, if you've proven the Sibbers video is real, the next thing I'm going to say is just go find Edward C. Lin. Obviously, he's the guy that leaked it. Just find Edward C. Lin. Just get him to admit that he leaked the videos, right? But this would be the first domino. If the AARO comes out and says that we've got that Sibbers video, that's it. It's over. It's over at that point. So there's a lot of ways where like we're basically free rolling at this point, where we have so many Yahtzee moments here that can't be debunked or anything like that. It's not just people's opinions. It's like people that are actually experts on these systems, people that can quite literally verify if the footage is Sibbers or not. Now, this is what gives debunkers like the shakes because they're terrified of this. Like some of these debunkers have committed their whole online personas to trying to prove that I'm somehow a fraud, that these videos are fake, and that their lives are totally normal and not falling to pieces all around them. So we're basically just free rolling here. We already know the videos are real. It's just a matter of time before it gets confirmed. The debunkers are going to get more and more desperate as all of their debunks fell flat. They know in the back of their minds that the videos are real. They just have a hard time coming to terms with it. And then the worst part is that they're going to have to admit that I'm right. That's the thing but yet more than anything else, Redditors in the history of the world have never admitted that they were wrong about anything, ever. Never once have I ever seen a Redditor admit they were wrong about anything. Not even exaggerating. Never, ever. The Redditors in the UFO community having to admit that I'm right is going to break them psychologically more than anything else. And I'm here for it. We're going to have the greatest live stream when that happens. We're going to go back through all the old threads, all the haters. We're going to have the best troll hunt ever. When the videos get proven real, we're going to go through all the Reddit threads, all the people saying how obviously fake they were. We're going to be making fun of them. We're going to be making fun of the people deleting their accounts in real time. It's just going to be a party for like 12 hours straight, just ripping on all the people that thought they were so smart that couldn't tell that the videos were real. It's going to be amazing. Kevin Shipp. So we just watched a clip of Kevin Shipp. The fact that there's another CIA agent that's like basically saying we need to look into MH370. Just listen to the last part of this clip from this guy. Just listen to the last part.
Question.
No wreckage, and the wreckage they claim they found an ocean away wasn't even from that flight.
Now, this is where I disagree. I do think the wreckage is from MH370, but it's an ocean away. Quite literally an ocean away, 3,000 miles. That's the big rub. Like, either the debris is not from MH370, if you think the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean, or that plane did not crash in the South Indian Ocean. It's actually really that simple. It doesn't require a PhD or any advanced logical skills. You just look at a map and you can be like, oh, you're saying the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean, but all the debris would have washed ashore in Australia. 0 debris washed ashore in Australia. A few pieces washed ashore in Africa. Guys, just basic logical thinking.
So there's something that really needs the American people to look into, and maybe this new administration could I think something really nefarious happened there.
I think that the government has technology that we couldn't even imagine. Yeah, and that's what all of these bases are meant to protect.
Candace hit the nail on the head. I think that she quite literally nailed it right there. I think all these bases are protecting this advanced technology that we have. Diego Garcia, they've probably got it deployed there. Like the technology's in some underground facility at Diego Garcia, and nobody sees it because they break it out at 2 a.m. or some shit like that. And then they float the orbs around, and then they land the orbs. Or they use that as a staging area because the minimum number of eyeballs are going to see things that fly in and out of there. Quite amazing. Also, just the fact that this CIA agent guy is like, man, he's looking at it, he's going, something nefarious happened with this plane. That is what I want more than anything. Even for the people that can't believe that we teleported an airplane, spoiler, we did. We have teleportation capabilities. Teleportation is very real. But even if you don't think that's real, you still have to accept something nefarious happened with this plane. There's clearly a cover-up at play. Like, no doubt whatsoever, clearly a cover-up at play. Good job, Pooh. Pooh's spreading the new narratives that Ashton is CIA, or what was the other one? I can't remember the other narrative. Russian disinformation, maybe that one. But yeah. There may be factions within the CIA as well, though, guys. Yeah, I don't think it's as simple as it's this everybody believes the same thing. I actually think I'm being protected because I think that people could have killed me if they wanted. Oh yeah, alien. I'm an alien. CIA alien. Yep. Oh, and I'm connected to the Dulles family, which is true. Actually true. Actually true, chat. The Dulleses are like my cousins. Or like step cousins. I don't know. But yeah, related. Okay. Last one. And there's more, honestly, there's more Yahtzee moments. This is just the Yahtzee moments from the people I talk to. To me, this one's somewhat overlooked, but getting in touch with Billy Vincent, who was a former director of the FAA, security director of the FAA back in like the 80s or early 90s. Getting in touch with him and him saying he's 100% sure that this was a fire event that happened on this plane. And the reason why he was sure was because the same thing happened to UPS Flight 6. And if you look up UPS Flight 6, you're going to find out that the same exact thing with the fire literally happened to this plane. And he said he never believed it was suicidal pilot. He said none of that made any sense. It doesn't fit with the evidence. So what I think is amazing is that I've talked to multiple pilots, including talking to Elizabeth Lane last week. And none of the pilots think that this was a suicidal pilot because pilots know pilot behavior and they know other pilots. It doesn't fit with a suicidal pilot. If this was a suicidal pilot, they just would have crashed the plane and they wouldn't have been thinking about like trying to land the plane perfectly so that it like falls to the bottom of the ocean in a spot where nobody can ever find it. They would never say that. People have pretty much told me, sources that I think are somewhat legit have pretty much told me that I'm being protected, that there's people out there that want this information to come out, and that those factions, whatever they may be, are doing whatever they can do to, you know, make sure that I'm able to talk about it. It wouldn't change knowing that or not knowing that. Like, I assume it's not true. It doesn't change how I act in any way, shape, or form. I've never been afraid of having anything happen to me. If anything happens to me, I would just become a martyr for this cause, and then there would be a massive Streisand effect. Everybody that's ever done an interview with me, if I even did take my own life, which I would never do, by the way, but even if I did that, like, every podcaster that's ever had a podcast with me would be reposting their podcast talking about how Ashton was this amazing investigator and all he wanted was the truth for MH370. It would be an absolute disaster for the intelligence community. In fact, I'm more inclined to there's no chance I would ever harm myself. Just as a disclaimer, I would never harm myself. But it is interesting to think about the Streisand effect that would happen if anything did happen to me. It would be massive. Realize that a lot of my followers, guys, are big conspiracy theorists, like way into the conspiracy theory stuff. So even if it was an accident, people would be like, the government, Lockheed Martin took Ashton out, guys, whatever. So I'm not afraid of it. Whatever, you know. If it were to happen, it would happen. Like I keep saying, guys, I am not going to live my life in fear, and I'm not going to go to my grave like hiding this information. Like, we saw a plane disappear out of the sky, a plane that has still not been found 10 years later, a plane where when you look into it, there's no doubt there was a cover-up, like no doubt. Everybody around this plane is sketchy as shit, including the prime minister of Malaysia, who ended up going to prison the next year for a major criminal kleptocracy scandal where he's just stealing money, bribes from people. Just what? Reddit is a lifestyle. It really is, man. It's like the blue sky. It's where all the blue skiers are at the moment. Just filled with pedos, chat. Filled with pedos. Yeah, I was going to play the clip of the prime minister, but we've played it so much, I don't think I'm going to play it again. But I loved when Candace, the best insert that they put in there was the prime minister when he just goes, like, what? Wow. Or not, that wasn't the prime minister. That was the minister of defense. But yeah, either way. Minister of defense. My God. Okay. Okay, let's change gears, guys. Let's change gears. Actually, let me see. I think I wanted to look at... We can watch this segment with Emerald. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to just chill a little bit. I was on with Emerald last night, so we didn't see it because I was live streaming, but love being on with Emerald. Accidentally told her I loved her last time I was on. True story, chat. I'm not going to shy away from it, okay? I made a gaffe. Last time I was on with Emerald, not this time, but the time before that, she said, I love talking to you. And I said, I love you too. And then it ended right after that, immediately after. And I sat there in the lobby afterwards, and I was like, oh, should I say something about what I just said? And I decided just to play it off. Like, I decided to just pretend like it didn't happen. And of course, when I posted the clip, everybody was commenting, oh, Ashton said he loves Emerald. It sounds super awkward. Like, it is super awkward the way it came out. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it. I'm not going to lie, honestly. I have no idea if Emerald's single or not, but she's a very attractive woman. And even though she's a little bit toxic on social media, I kind of like it. I kind of like it, actually, for some reason. I don't know why. She's extremely toxic on social media, but I love that authenticity. You know, she just says whatever she means. She doesn't give a crap if the person's a conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever. She just pushes it out there. So, you know what? I love Emerald, guys. It is what it is. She's got to get her box more centered here. It's really triggering me. This is the second time, though, where her box isn't centered. And I don't know, I'm OCD or whatever. So she goes on her a couple-minute thing about the alien invasion and these videos, the ones that you guys have seen. This blue thing, whatever this thing is supposed to be, I don't really know. Some of this stuff that people are seeing over some cities or something like that. Lou Elizondo. She takes a shot at Schellenberger. Emerald hates Michael Schellenberger. She like actually just legitimately hates Michael Schellenberger. And I'm not like the biggest Michael Schellenberger fan, so I kind of play into it a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's just hate on Michael Schellenberger, whatever. So she's like, why does Michael Schellenberger get to talk to the Congress and you don't? And I'm like, that's a good point. Why don't I get to talk to Congress?
Were spooks and Michael Schellenberger. You know, I felt he's one and the same. Is Project Bluebeam afoot?
She's like, I love how she's like, and Michael Schellenberger. Like they're talking to a bunch of spooks and Michael Schellenberger. I kind of think he's the same. I love how she just doesn't hold back at all. She's just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk shit. It's like, okay, great.
Are we about to experience the mother of all psyops with less than just 50 days before Donald Trump's inauguration? Well, let's seek out the truth. We're joined now by Ashton Forbes, who's going to praise.
Bro, I didn't even notice. Look at this great thing on the bottom. So normally when I'm talking to her, like I'm just looking straight ahead. I'm not reading the thing on the bottom. Check this out. Ashton Forbes, focus on the technology, not the alien part of the story. Yes. Perfect. Also, great shirt. I love that green shirt. You can't even tell what's going on with this green shirt. It's just like a striped shirt. But for some reason, it has this weird effect when it's on the camera.
Out that truth for us. Ashton, I asked Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona about this potential alien invasion tonight. And if aliens were real, he does believe that there are extraterrestrial beings out there. So are we going to be invaded by actual aliens tonight?
I mean, well, I'm ready for it. You know, I've got my green shirt on here. I'm ready for the little green men to come down and visit, you know, get us off this planet, get us wherever we got to go. You know, it couldn't get any worse than it is now. So I, for one, am excited for our new alien overlords. But no, you really get down to it. I think that the idea that this is all a big psyop to distract us from potentially some major technological revolution that either the government or defense contractors related to the government have figured out is the chances of that are skyrocketing at the moment. If you look around the UFO community, you can see the impact that. Look at. Wait, where am I at? Where's my face? Oh, here we are. This one's even good too. U.S. elites have next generation tech they're hiding from us. Perfect. This is like they were nailing it, guys. They were nailing it here. But here I talk a little bit as well about look at how much MH370X has impacted the UFO disclosure thing. Like, and also, man, you guys are really hitting on Emerald a lot in the chat at the moment. Look at Amanda. You have her number? That's a personal question, but actually I don't. I don't have her number. But shout out to you guys. So for somebody just said in the chat as well, like, hey, you're kind of egotistical, but you still deserve some credit. Frankly, you guys deserve the credit. You guys are the ones pushing the conversation forward. I go look at every single one of Jeremy Corbell's little tweets or whatever, and I constantly see people in there talking about 0 point energy now. And it forces them to address the issues. It forces them to address the issues. That's what's so big about it. We've forced people to start talking about 0 point energy, start talking about the energy source, talk about warp drives, talking about wormholes. This shit, guys, these concepts, even 1 year ago, you would have been looked at like you're a literal crazy person. In fact, you'll still get looked at like you're a crazy person. There's just more people talking about it now. There's just more people talking about it now. But in a few years, you're not going to get looked at like you're a crazy person. We have been acclimating people to 0 point energy and warp drives and wormholes way faster than I thought it was going to happen. Like, I see it, guys. One of my superpowers, I don't have traditional superpowers. I have spider sense where I can tell when someone's being deceitful. My other superpower is being able to understand social media and trends on social media and what people are thinking on social media. Not only do I see 0 point energy just like taking over the UFO community, quite literally taking it over, but also I just see that people are getting more comfortable with this idea that free energy is not some breaks the laws of physics thing, that is just this physics and technology, the next level up from our current understanding of physics in the universe. And that's huge. Absolutely huge. Let me get these donations. I don't know if I got these. Okay, we talked about where the plane went. We talked about the destruction. Would it go to somewhere else on Earth? Yeah, I don't believe in alternate parallel dimensions. There could be, but we don't have evidence for that at the moment. So I believe the plane did go somewhere else on Earth. Yep. There's more evidence for that. You can watch some of my other interviews where I go into, in depth on that. Redacted and Candace Owens, we talk quite a lot about where the plane goes. DL Dempsey, thank you for that donation as well. Thank you guys for those donations. You guys have been on fire, by the way. Okay. There was 0 point energy was destroying another universe. No, I didn't really watch Stargate, actually, guys. The funny part is I never actually watched any of these shows or movies that people talk about. The only ones I watched, like I watched Star Trek The Next Generation. I've seen every episode of that. My mom was a big Trekkie, so I watched all of those. And I watched Lost. Even though Lost got really, 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 really bad the last couple of seasons, I watched that. So I'm familiar with those. I'm not familiar with anything else. I'm not familiar with Manifest. Like I know about them because I get asked like 50 times about them. I'm familiar with Millennium and the Langoliers and a few other things. The reason why there are shows and things like that that show the science is because the science in physics is real. The best creativity comes from an element of truth. So I don't think it should be surprising that stuff in Star Trek ends up being real. I don't think that should be surprising at all, because people have conceptualized that it was possible before we had the capability to the material science required to produce it. The biggest question that I have even right now is whether or not we really have the material science to produce UFOs. The reason why I believe that the United States government has the technology is that I came to the revelation that plasma doesn't require metamaterials. And if you now have found a way around the material science requirement, now you have something that I think humans could produce. So for the people that would say we can't have made these UFOs, they're built too exact, I would say you might be right. But if a ball of plasma is like discovering fire, and now all I have to do is make a lighter, maybe a lighter that works. Obviously, I don't really smoke, so this lighter hasn't been used in several years. But if you can figure out how plasma can become, you can make plasma very simply, then I think, wow, that does make sense that we could have figured that out. And there's a lot of patents out there that support that idea. I do want to look at one, but let's finish this video clip. MH370X has had, the organization that I put together investigating the missing plane. Everybody's out there asking, what's the energy source? So for the people that are out there, like, I want to know what's going on with this whole UFO thing. Here's the secret phrase. What is the energy source? You ask that question to anybody, and this is what's going to force them to clam up. Because if there are little UFOs flying around there, and like it's been going on in this video here, they're talking about these objects are floating around the sky for hours on end. The question would have to be, where is their fuel source coming from? This is going to be the big rub behind all the secrecy around the UFO topic, is that they've got some kind of exotic energy source, most likely related to 0 point energy or aneutronic fusion, which is like a form of cold fusion, and they don't want to give it to us peasants.
There's a concern, though, because Mr. High does have like a high, success rate. There's some.
Well, let's just stop it there. That's pretty good. That's really all I wanted to show anyway. That was the money shot right there. Is that what is the fuel source for your UFO? This is the the major question. Why this question breaks through the narrative. I'm good at games of strategy, and I'm good at wars of information, games of missing information. And I see the narrative that they're trying to push. The narrative they're trying to push is it's aliens. We can't understand this technology. So I say, you know what? I'm not even going to argue with them about that. We're going to move the narrative past their narrative. And we're going to say, okay, fine. Aliens are real. Sure. That's okay. You can have that. What's the energy source? How's this UFO floating around in the sky? Oh, it's the cord. Ignore the cord. This is what really breaks through the narrative because it forces them to lie or it forces them to admit the truth. We already know what the truth is. The truth is the energy source is the thing that is classified. That is the thing that is the national security issue. And they keep saying they can't talk about the national security issue. So what do? We ask questions that force them to address the national security issue. We force them to address the energy source. That's why. So when you guys are going and we're asking the question, what is the energy source? Realize that this is like, there's a very specific strategy for why we're asking what the energy source is. And if you understand why we're asking that, then you are probably going to be one of those people who's going to be asking the question. Because it's the perfect question to ask to break through the disinformation. And I just realized I haven't had my brands up. Look at that. It didn't have my brands up. Oh, I should have used my Hard Truths podcast one too. You guys didn't tell me? Okay, it's fine. Felt so naked, guys. Okay, next video. We're going to watch 2 videos and then we're going to call it, I think, after that. Let's change gears a little bit. We've talked enough about aliens. God, talking about aliens, guys. Yeah, Stephen Greer was probably more right than he's wrong, but they were able to discredit him pretty easily because of some of the things that he did in the past. And I've also heard that he's got some skeletons in his closet. I'm not going to go ahead and say what those are because could be libel or slander. But if true, he's got some big skeletons in his closet. Okay. Let's take a look at this bookmark. What was this? Pais 1758. What's that in reference to? Is that my interview? We may look at more at that interview later. I still have to pull some clips from it. That's probably not going to happen until tomorrow. I also have to repost those Stan Deo clips as well. Okay. Somebody asked me earlier in the stream, do I know about John Cyril? Of course I do. I basically, anybody that's a free energy type person, I've probably heard of them. More likely than not. I think a lot of them were probably real and some of them are probably not. And it's really hard to tell which ones are which, especially if there's somebody who's smart and they know what they're doing. Yeah, it's I don't know. Aliens could I don't mind people arguing about where the aliens are, if they're underwater, ultra terrestrial, extraterrestrial, whatever. I personally don't know and I don't care, but people are happy if they want to be opinionated about it. I hope we get to the truth one way or another. Oh, Travis, thank you for that donation. Just came in. Maybe this was already asked, but do we know that the strong nuclear force and the weak nuclear force relate to the super potential? Yeah, so this is Sal has basically 2 claims that he's making, and I finally understand them now to a level where I feel confident speaking about them. The Pais effect is this effect where we can have an electromagnetic energy density so powerful that you can rip through the fabric of reality. And that's what we're seeing in the MH370 drone video. That's what we're seeing right here. Ripping through the fabric of reality. Pais effect. This is probably why Sal Pais was so excited to talk to me. Is that when he sees that, he knows exactly what's going on in that video. The other one, the super force, is this idea that all of the forces stem from the underlying 0-point energy field. In other terms, all the forces come from the ether. And the only reason why we have forces at all is because it's the interaction between particles in our observable reality relative to the particles that are trapped in the quantum level in the ether. And that's why he's saying that it's basically like a unification theory that says there's this super force that gives rise to all of the other forces through this interaction of the 0-point energy field and our reality. So we're in this ocean of energy, and basically we're saying that on the surface of this ocean is where the observable forces exist and why we see them. So hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Billy, no downside. Nice to see you, brother. Nice to see you. Okay, so this video here is about a free energy device. And the reason why we're looking at this is A, I'm kind of bored, and B, we haven't looked at any free energy devices in a while. So, and this is by Patrick Kelly, who's the guy that I was just in a space with, who I decided is legit. I think he knows the physics. You can tell pretty quickly. So this is Robert Adams. He said that he's got some 800% efficient motor or something like that. Let's skip ahead a little bit. What is this? They changed this? So he's got some kind of efficient motor. Let's see. What do we got here? Looks like it's just reading the whole thing, huh? Let's watch the first few minutes of it.
Achieves a power output which is 8 times greater than the input power. Although it does not look as if it is, his design is actually a permanent magnet motor. The diagram of his motor, which is supposed to show how it works, is this. This gives the impression that the rotation of the rotor carrying the permanent magnets is driven by electrical pulses like John Bedini's famous motor. It isn't. This is a permanent magnet motor, and the rotation of the rotor is caused primarily by the magnets in the rotor being attracted to the solid iron cores of the 2 drive electromagnets shown in the diagram. The electromagnets confuse people, as they don't realize that the level of power applied to them is so low that it only just cancels the backward drag of the magnets as soon as they pass the electromagnet cores. That happens 4 times per revolution, and the power is only switched on when the rotor magnet is exactly aligned with the electromagnet, and then only briefly. These 2 electromagnets, along with their very carefully timed...
Okay, so I just heard something that's really huge. This is root beer. If you're not familiar, I like root beer, I like olives, I like pickles, and I like black jelly beans. Yep, you heard that correctly. Those are all acquired tastes. For a lot of people don't like them. You may say, Ashton, no, I like root beer. If you're an American, you probably like root beer. If you're from Europe or Asia, you probably don't like root beer. Go ahead, fact check it. Fact check it. And yes, black jelly beans are the best. And if you don't like black jelly beans, then you are not a good person. Okay, anyway, what did they just say there in that clip? So in this clip here, this is the device. This is the core mechanism of the device right here. You're going to find that this same core mechanism is discussed in a lot of over unity devices. Basically, all magnetic motors are utilizing the same concept. So you've got one magnet here and you've got another magnet here, okay? And let's just say they're opposite, so they're going to attract. So while this magnet is approaching this magnet, you're going to have basically free energy, right? Because this pull is happening because this magnet's pulling this magnet towards it. Once they reach this equilibrium point, now when this magnet keeps moving, it's trying to pull back towards the other magnet. So this is why you would say that a permanent magnet cannot produce free energy. Because even though we get free energy from this point down here, we're paying it back. Paying it back. So free energy here, paying the energy back here. So what's the answer? What's the answer to this question? Just turn off this magnet. Just turn this magnet off. I'll take the free energy here, and then I switch this electromagnet off, and then the magnet automatically keeps flowing without resistance. The moment the magnet starts to pull back against me and do work against me over here, I turn this side off. And then the moment the next magnet starts to get close, I turn it back on again. and then I turn it off. This is what you see happening in almost all of these designs. And so what you want to look for is right there at the top where it says switch. That's why there's a switch right there. What that switch is doing is it's turning off the electromagnets on the left and the right. And they've got this set on a timer so that 4 times per revolution, see how there's 4 permanent magnets there? 4 times per revolution, it's turning off and back on. It's pulsing. It's a form of resonance, exactly. Because what is resonance? Resonance is just a beat. It's music. Resonance is a music. So you basically make this beat, and you know it's spinning at a constant rate, so you just have the switch go off at the perfect time every single time. Once the magnet approaches, once it gets here, you turn off the electromagnet, and now it can flow. Next one comes, turn the electromagnet back on, pulls towards it, repeat. That's it. Simple concept. Extremely simple concept. How crazy it is that that's all it takes for a magnetic motor to potentially go over unity, is that you just need to understand this concept of switching off one of the magnets at the right time. Crazy, huh? And then the question is, when you're pulsing it, switching it off and on, is that using less energy than what you're getting for free for the magnet continuing to move? If so, you've got over unity. Simple as that. And then it's a question of how do you make it very efficient? You need that process to be very, very efficient. The more efficient that process gets, the more free energy you're going to produce. So let's see. So I already know it's legit just from listening to that explanation, but let's hear him keep going.
Timed electric pulses are the entire drive for the generator. The timing of the drive coil pulses is arranged by an optical timing disc of this type. The timing disc is mounted on the side of the rotor, and the sensor is operated by slots cut in the rim of the actual timing disc. Let's concentrate on the drive for the moment. After much experimentation, Robert found that the most efficient arrangement is when the cores of the drive electromagnets have half the cross-sectional area of the rotor magnets. So if the rotor magnets have a circular cross-section, then their diameter will be twice that of the drive electromagnet's diameter. Robert also found that the best gap between the rotor magnets and the drive electromagnets is about 1/2 inch, which is 12 millimeters. A further tweak to the drive system is the fact that the drive electromagnets are fed a continuous stream of electric pulses. Now, when a coil is powered up and then the current switched off, the coil generates a reverse voltage pulse, sometimes called a back EMF pulse, a term which annoys some.
So what is back EMF? A lot of people have brought up this concept back EMF, and I'll just go ahead and tell you it's extremely important when it comes to over unity. If you are pulsing on or off your voltage, you see this back EMF pulse. I think how the theory goes is this back EMF pulse is destroying your dipole. So what people have theorized is that you can use the back EMF in a positive way. So let's see what he's saying here.
Electronic purists no end. In Robert's motor generator, those back EMF pulses are used twice. First, as the coils are energized in order to oppose the attraction between the rotor magnets and the electromagnet cores, the back EMF, being in the opposite direction, causes the reverse effect, increasing the attraction to the next approaching rotor magnet. Second, Robert rectifies the back EMF pulses and feeds them back to the drive battery, and that recovers 95% of the current needed to make the generator work. Now we come to the power generating system.
I didn't realize I was going to do a full here's how free energy works for you guys today, but here we go. I guess we are talking about it. I can already tell this is legit. Just, this is once you've started to learn how the science works, like you can tell a real one from a fake device, because now it's just a matter of engineering it. Like I already know from the explanations they just gave that I know this person's legit. And what are they doing here? Is that the back EMF has an opposite polarity, meaning that normally the issue here is that when we have our two magnets, they're coming together, they're attracting to one another. So when this magnet's approaching this other magnet, we're getting free energy from this because of the attractive force between them. And then we switch it off, and now the polarity for a brief second changes. And when it changes, now they're repelling. And since they're repelling, what's going to happen? It's going to push itself away from this other magnet. In fact, somebody else, I don't know who that was, just pointed out as well that with these electromagnets, they can actually just change the polarity on the electromagnet as well. Now, it seems like when you switch it off, you're automatically getting that back EMF, which has opposite polarity. So now it's even easier. We're attracting. We switch it off. Now we're repelling. And you just repeat that process. And you would say, how long? Well, it depends on your circle. Depends on how long it takes for one revolution of your circle. Pretty simple, actually. It's actually really simple. That's the thing about free energy. And that's why when I talk about magnetic motors, it's neat. But you can see that it's going to take a lot of effort to engineer it. And then the other thing that they're doing is they're trying to feed the back EMF into a separate thing. So they're saying like, okay, when I have my back EMF happen, reroute that over to the right over here. And then we're going to use that later on. As long as I don't have this thing over the right interact with my thing over to the left, I'm not breaking down my dipole. My dipole is staying open. So we're rerouting that over here. This is what I talk about the back end engineering. So there's two things going on here. One is that you are basically creating a perpetual motion machine by inverting magnetism back and forth with a switch at a resonance. The other thing you're doing is you're using your circuitry engineering to reroute the, let's call it negative energy, the back EMF that would normally break your dipole, and you're sending that somewhere else, which maybe you do something else with it. I think we can take it a step further based on the Maxwell equations and Sal Pais, and we can say that you can amplify energy within a circuit with the right design. And we know that because we looked at the parametric oscillations of an electrical circuit. This video got almost no views. What was it called? Was it a parametric oscillation? Oh, here it is.
Adding our
This video got
variable
almost no
inductor
views.
into the circuit, the capacitor only needs a minuscule amount.
This is a circuit right here
of latent charge.
This thing on the left is an inductor. This is a magnetic coil, basically, that you see over here on the left. This thing up here on the top is a resistor, and over here is our capacitor. This is our battery.
As even any dead capacitor will have some latent charge. The process of exponential growth begins, and after a short amount of time, the current begins to take off. And since the current must be constant through all the elements, we see that the voltage across the resistor takes off as well. This means that real power is being generated in the system, and is able to do real work, creating heat through the resistor.
Do you guys understand how huge this video is, that what we're looking at right here? He just said you can take a dead battery, a dead capacitor, because even though a dead capacitor has some small amount of charge in it, and you just start exponentially increasing it through these parametric oscillations, and next thing you know, you've got a huge amount of current that's been formed. That's amplification of energy that you're watching right now. Quite literal amplification of energy. Now, of course, like Gerald's saying, capture the back EMF and you can control the heat. This all now becomes about understanding the physics and the engineering, because now we're talking about optimizing it. Talking about how do you make it something that we can commercialize, that we can sell. We've got the science figured out, but we've got problems. It's heating up. I've got to develop this circuit that's going to pull the back EMF away. These are all engineering challenges. And our material science is getting better and better and better. Just as an example, imagine if we had room temperature superconducting wires. Now that changes everything about my circuit. Now we can potentially have that amplification happen much faster. It turns out plasma naturally does all of this. Plasma solves all of these issues that we have with the material science. Because plasma, it can become superconducting. It naturally has an asymmetry of charge. It's like a circuit, but the circuit is everywhere all at once. More like our brain than it is a conventional circuit. Okay, let's watch the rest of this.
One person who's replicated this device has an excess power output of 33 kilowatts, and that powers his house and his business. The power generation is through 4 additional electromagnets, which act as pickup coils. This is Robert's drawing of his arrangement. You'll notice a number of things here. The 4 generator coils are mounted physically on a disc or a ring, while the 2 drive coils are separately mounted on their own mounts. This means that the gap between the generator coils and the drive coils can be adjusted while the motor is running. Also, you'll notice that the width of the core of the collector or generator coils is very much greater than the width of the core of the so-called drive coils. The generator coils in his drawing are very nearly square. Next, you need to notice the proportions of the rotor magnets. They're very much longer than they are wide, separating the outer north poles from the inner south poles. However, a point which seems to escape most people is the fact that a critical part of the design is the technique of cutting off the output power at the appropriate moment. Cutting off the output power sounds all wrong to most people, and yet it's a very important thing to do. The reason is the same as for the drive coils. If you don't cut off the electrical connection, then the attraction between the solid iron cores of the generator coils and the rotor magnets tries to pull the rotor magnets back towards the fixed generator coil cores, an effect which is called drag. But if the output current generated in the coils by the passing magnets is cut off at just the right instant, then the back EMF generated by that cutoff causes a magnetic field in the generator coils which boosts the rotor on its way instead of dragging it backwards. Robert also rectifies that back EMF pulse and feeds it back to the drive battery.
I've never understood a video as well as I've understood it now, which goes to show I've learned a lot about free energy. So what you just heard there re-explained everything I just told you. Is what they're saying is that if you turn off the power to your electromagnet at just the right time, just as this other magnet's coming by, then not only do you remove the drag that would normally happen after you're passing it, where now the magnets are trying to attract again, but it actually has the opposite effect, where now you have a reverse polarity on this electromagnet for a brief moment that actually repels it away. That's huge. Just that understanding alone helps people understand how free energy is possible. If you are an unbiased physicist or engineer and you hear what I just explained right there, you go, yeah, that actually makes sense. Magnets are a form of free energy. We can see it all the time. We see their attraction and repulsion. So taking a permanent magnet, making it attract to an electromagnet, and then turning off the electromagnet, that seems like that should be saving you energy, getting you a form of free energy. It's just the weird part is not that complicated. And for people to just say like, oh, this violates the laws of thermodynamics. Well, does it work though? Have you ever thought like maybe it just works? Because if it works, it doesn't matter what your laws say and what your theory says. If it works, it works. And now you've got to go update your theory. All of these people through history haven't been lying about magnetic motors. People are like, they're all con artists. They're charlatans. No, they looked at magnets and they went, wait, we can do something with this magnetism, this free attraction, and we can get energy out of it. We can get energy out of it. Yeah, it's like, you just look at our universe. It's like All force is movement, and all movement's just happening because of gravity and curvature of space-time. It should seem apparent that there must be a form of perpetual motion. We're seeing perpetual motion all the time, even in our solar system. Planets have been spinning around this sun for billions of years. How are they doing that? Well, gravity, right? They never run into a wall. They just keep spinning and spinning and spinning.
So far, this is a highly efficient system. Robert's diagram doesn't show when the generator coils are best switched on or off. A builder with a forum ID of Memiara found optimum switching would switch on at 40 degrees and switch off at 44.7 degrees. That tiny 2.7 degree part of the rotor turn gave him an input of 27.6 watts and an output of 33.78 kilowatts, which is a coefficient of performance of 1,223, or 122,300%, which is spectacular. It suggested that a good length for the generator coils is shown when your particular rotor magnets just start to lift one end of a 32mm long paperclip off the table, like this diagram shows you. And that indicates the coil width. And it's generally a good idea to have the width of the coil 1.5 times the coil length. Robert takes his design further by using short pulses of current. This is something which is done after the rotor operation has been optimized using continuous battery power. That is, after moving the generator coils on their disk to find the best performance position and control.
So one thing I want to point out here as well is that you can tell there's a lot of optimizing that goes into this. This is not some kind of thing where you just spend a couple hours and now it's operating at 100% perfect efficiency. I would argue that to get it to be very, very efficient is probably extremely difficult and takes a lot of time. And so what you see here is that they're tweaking the distance of all these things from these other things. Like they're trying to get this thing spinning around to line up with this other thing spinning around so that they get, like, you know, they want it to pulse on and off at the exact right moment as well. And if you're pulsing it on and off at the wrong moment, it's not going to work. This is why when you guys watch some of these debunk videos of these devices, why they don't work. I don't think I've ever seen a debunk video of a free energy device that even addresses pulsing on and off the current, because they don't even understand the basics of what's going on. They don't even understand, quite literally, even the basics of engineering, basics of electrical engineering. It turns out most of these engineers, at least basically all of the ones that I've seen on YouTube, are all complete frauds. All of them are that guy Mehdi Salamander, whatever his name is, Jeremy Fielding or whatever. They're all 100% frauds. I would be happy to expose them in a court of law because I can actually show the scientific principles, and I would actually be able to produce a free energy device in front of them as well. They're complete frauds. There's no other way to put it. They're frauds and they're phonies, and they have no concept of what free energy even is. They certainly don't understand 0-point energy. And this is probably why when they do their little like debunk videos of free energy, they just do stupid shit like plug in like a power extender into itself, because that's how dumb their minds are. And their minds is like, "Dude, I plugged it into itself. I'm a caveman." But turns out, no, it's actually like there's a literal reason why you're pulsing it, because we're trying to not break down our dipole. We're trying to keep that dipole open. And it turns out the equations say that we can amplify energy if we pulse. Quite literally, amplify energy, parametric oscillations. Crazy. Yeah, I know all about Dan Winter, guys. I've avoided Dan Winter, not because I think he's wrong on the science. I think he's probably right on the science. I think that you lose a little bit when you start focusing on like the golden ratio and all the what do they call it, sacred geometry stuff. It doesn't matter how it works. It doesn't matter what the geometry is. People get too into, oh, this, we must bow down to the sacred geometry ratios. Who fucking cares? Okay, this is double that. Oh, this is a ratio of 2 to 3 to that. Okay, so what? Okay, I don't care. Just make the magic work. Whatever it takes for the magic to work, great. But he could be right. In fact, Dan Winter is probably correct. Probably correct about everything, actually, including the consciousness factor. It's impossible to ignore the consciousness factor once you realize there's a sea of energy and all energy is coming from that sea of energy. The logical next step is, okay, wait, is my consciousness coming from that sea of energy? Probably. For now, we got to take it baby steps at a time. First baby step is free energy is possible. I think we watched enough of that clip. Free energy is possible. The ether is real. 0-point energy is real. We can teleport stuff. After we've accepted that, then we can start moving on to, okay, is there some breakaway civilization on this planet? Okay, what does this mean about world religions? What does this mean about reincarnation? What does this mean about our souls, etc.? I don't know. Okay. Last video we're going to watch for tonight. I want to watch this Chris Leto video. I've found Chris Leto's. So first of all, Winifred Adams is upset. She wants me. I can't. You guys are chatting so fast. I can't even click the links. She wants me to go there. A lot of people want me to go there. They want me to just dig right into the woo. I'm taking it one step at a time. What I've told people is we're building something here. We're building a building. You start the foundation, work your way up. You know, the 1 × 1 = 2 is way up here with the periodic table based on frequencies. But hey, we might work our way up there. Phase conjugation is something that I'm going to be talking more with Tom Montauk. Tom Manderley, isn't that his real name? Tomorrow, actually. We're going to record tomorrow. I'm going to drop it this weekend. I'm probably not going to have to edit it too much because he's a good guy to talk to. I'm going to talk more about scalar physics with Tom. I'm going to talk about plasma with him a little bit and potentially how we can make a standing wave in a plasma. So I'm looking forward to that. In fact, I wanted to do that tonight, but I think we might be running out of time. You know what? Let's do a quick intermission before we jump to the Chris Leto thing. Let's just see. I want to see how good Grok is. Okay, I'm not sharing anything here. I want to see how good Grok is. How do we make a cold plasma? I kind of like just asking the AI questions, sees what comes up with. End of the day, the AI is just a language learning model. It is just pulling information from what's out there on the internet, but it does a pretty good job in general. This involves creating a plasma state at a relatively low temperature where the electrons are not high energy, while the heavier ions and neutral species remain at or near room temperature. Now, why is that huge? Because that's what we're looking at in those MH370 videos. This is why it's the plasma is not high temperature. Fourth state of matter, dielectric barrier discharges. Oh, methods to create cold plasma. Look at that. Look at that, chat. There we go. DBD. JK Philly fans excited, so that's probably a good sign. Dielectric barrier discharges. I don't even know what this means. Principle. This involves using a high voltage alternating current. I already like this. Or pulsed DC between 2 electrodes separated by an insulating material. The dielectric prevents the formation of continuous arc and promotes the creation of micro discharges, which are cold plasmas. Pulsed current once again. I don't think that's a coincidence, chat. So it turns out free energy is based on pulsed discharges, and so is cold plasma. That's pretty weird. The dielectric prevents... Okay, I already said that. So you're trying to prevent the formation of a continuous arc, and instead you're getting micro discharges. Huh. This is interesting. Why? Because couldn't your insulator just be like a gas? What if we had 2 semiconductors and then we just have an insulating cavity filled with gas? And let's say this gas is not conductive. And now let's say these semiconductors are actually superconductors. And we've got these superconductors, and now my electrons are just flowing right through the gas, right through the barrier. They're quantum tunneling right through the insulator. Xenon gas, people are going crazy on the gas. I think we're on to something here, chat. Xenon gas, argon gas. Isn't this what Sal Pais's patent was? I'm pretty sure his patent, this is one of the things, guys, like this is, I think we're on to something here. I think we're on to something. I think Sal's patent for his triangle craft thingy, I think it had a cavity with xenon gas inside of it, right? Didn't it have a cavity with xenon gas inside? What was it called? Transmedium craft. Inertial mass reduction for transmedium craft. Let me see. Let's switch over real quick. Inner resonant wall, vibrating wall. Yeah, maybe this is what he's doing. Maybe this is how he's making an ionizing cavity here. Doesn't he say xenon gas or something like that? Huh. Yeah. In the preferred embodiment, the resonant cavity is filled with a noble gas. The gas xenon might be used. However, any noble gas or the equivalent can be unified. The gas is used for the plasma phase transition of the symmetry breaking for the amplification of the Prigogine effect. Okay, guys, I think we're on to something big here, chat. God, I'm glad we looked at this tonight. Oh, boy. My spider sense, guys, I'm getting the tingling feeling like I think we've figured something out. I think we've figured something out, chat. I think that in this design right here, can I zoom in on this? Yeah. I think he's using an insulating cavity filled with xenon gas, and he's producing the plasma because of this. So the discharge is going to come from the inside out, and it's going to push through this insulating cavity, and it's going to produce the plasma on the outside of the craft. Wow. We might have figured it out. Huh. That is too crazy. I almost wish I had asked him this now. Huh. Let's look back at Grok again. I'm wondering, are we missing something here? The resonant cavity may also surround the crew component. Yeah. The outer resonant cavity wall then becomes electrically charged. And the inner resonant cavity wall may become electrically insulated. So really, it's pushing the electricity onto the outside of the craft. That's what this is doing. Wow. Looks like sacred geometry to me. I like how you guys troll me, honestly. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I'm starting to think they're producing the energy on the inside of this craft, and then they're using this effect to create cold plasma using the xenon gas as an insulator between the dielectric barriers here. And then what's happening is quantum tunneling is happening between the barrier, where some of the electrons are able to push right through the barrier. And therefore, when these electrons do this, they're cold because they haven't had their energetic state increase to a level where they become very hot. They're abusing this quantum effect of tunneling, which does not cause them to heat up. That's what I think is going on here. Damn, this is crazy, chat. I'm kind of reeling right now. I think that's what's happening there. I think we just explained Sal's patent in a way that nobody on Earth has explained it to date. I don't think that anybody's explained that patent. At least not that I've seen. Setup. 2 parallel plates or a cylindrical setup with one electrode inside a dielectric tube and the other on the outside of the tube. So this second part is really interesting, right? Because remember, we just looked at his patent, and he's talking about you're basically going to be able to send one side of the electrode. Imagine your electrodes are your positives and your negatives on your battery. You have the energy coming from inside the craft, pushing to the outside of the craft, and in here we have the gas. Apply a high voltage, often in the range of kilovolts. My guess is it has to go way higher than kilovolts. From what I've talked to people, like you have to get above like 100,000 volts. Congratulations to Bitcoin, by the way. Congratulations. You have to get over like 100,000 volts, and the frequencies are extremely high as well, or in pulses. Okay, so gases like helium, argon, or air can be used. Air can be used. Huh. I wonder if, God, now the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm like, man, yeah, because air is an insulator as well. So maybe they're just using an air gap in these balls of plasma. Air seems vague, but it's actually not. If air is actually very specific, the composition of the air, right? Okay, we're taking too long here. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Atmospheric pressure plasma jets. A gas is ionized and flows out of a nozzle, creating a plasma plume that can be directed at surfaces into an environment. Meh. Radio frequency plasma uses radio frequency to energy to ionize the gas. This is very likely. Place the gas in a chamber or flow it through a setup where it's exposed to an RF field. The RF energy excites the gas, leading to an ionization, but with less thermal energy transfer to the gas molecules. So it could be this one as well. This is very vague, though. This doesn't really explain exactly what we need to do. Yeah, we can probably do this with attosecond lasers as well. My guess is attosecond lasers are going to heat up the plasma, though. So I'm thinking the lasers are probably heating up the plasma, but this RF radio frequency one here kind of makes me think there's a way to do it without it. And then microwave radiation could be used as well. Microwave is just like the different wavelength, so it's all RF. So a microwave source can send energy to a cavity or directly through a waveguide where the gas is present. This reminds me of the Lockheed Martin patent. So there's a Lockheed Martin patent, coherent matter wave beams. Here it is. Systems and methods for generating a coherent matter wave beam. Look at this. Look at all these cavities that exist in this thing. Coupled resonant cavities. So if you want to know what is this device doing here, this is probably generating plasma at the very, very tiny scales. Look how small this is. 10 microns across. So if something were using this coherent matter wave beam to create a ball lightning, this thing is tiny. This thing is microscopic. 10 microns across. So when people say, like, why do I think there's something inside there? Well, because Lockheed Martin in 2011, filed this patent for this coherent matter wave beam patent, which, in my opinion, is the exact thing we're looking for. This is exactly what we're looking. Look at these little cavities. You just fill it with gas or just use air, and you can just create a plasma out of it. Okay. Oh, Chad and Sherry just got off the phone with the aliens who canceled their invasion, guys. They said they're running a little bit behind schedule because they're still waiting on the military-industrial complex to send them their marching orders. Apparently, they won't invade until just before Trump is inaugurated, guys. Obviously, just a coincidence. So we can look for that alien invasion maybe in January, around January 20th, guys. Anyway. Exciting cold plasma with a pulsed energy to induce a nonlinear parametric oscillations that resonate with the quantum field. That sounds neat, but I don't know. Does that actually make sense? I'm not really sure. Kind of. Resonance is definitely legit. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's finish this off. What else? So microwave, safety conditions, gas handling, temperature, sure. Okay. Requires specialized equipment, especially for the power supplies. So there's a few different leads that we can go down. Maybe we'll do another live stream where we just look at the plasmas and how to produce the plasmas. Definitely feels like there's something there that out of the stuff that we just looked at there, especially that connection to the patent with the resonant cavities. There's something there. My guess is there's an easy way that we can produce these plasmas. And if we can figure that out, maybe we can produce one ourselves. And we don't even need to produce a 20-foot ball of plasma. If we can just produce anything that we can record floating around for even a few seconds, that would be huge. That would be huge. Okay. What's the connection there being 3 of these things? There's still some mystery there. We haven't figured out everything. How are these things locking together? They lock together and then it looks like they're one object. That's a very common property that people have seen with respect to these plasma orbs. Is they've seen them lock in 3 and sometimes in 6 in a bigger triangle, right? How are they doing that? Are they, the way I think of it is they must have some type of some radio frequency that's hitting the other one where they know exactly how far away it is, that keeps them in perfect position. That science alone is very advanced. I'm hoping we figure that out as we dig more and more into this. Yeah, maybe we're projecting a shape into a scalar field. I do think it's going to be something like that, where it's like they're using this extra dimension in a way where they can create a perfect lock-on resonance. I don't know exactly how, but yeah, like cymatics, right? Cymatics is probably the secret to that somehow. You create the right resonant frequency and somehow you can just perfectly lock in. Okay. Last thing, guys, this Chris Leto thing. I found Chris Leto to be, his evolution is quite interesting. I thought he was somebody that was pretty skeptical before. And now he's gone all in on the ether, plasma universe, etc. And you know what? He's right. So here he's talking about James Clerk Maxwell and Maxwell's equations. Impressive stuff.
Well, I mean, Maxwell's theory is already the unification in the sense that it contains the speed of light.
Okay, so sorry. So Maxwell did. So Maxwell, that's what he unified.
Yeah, it's. I mean, to be fair, in history, there's also Kirchhoff and Weber. Maybe he was actually, I guess, the first one who noted the coincidence. The guy who's like, oh, isn't it strange that if we divide these numbers, the speed of light comes out?
Yeah.
I mean, I should say that Andre Assis is really an expert on this. The guy I also interviewed on my channel. He's a professor in Brazil and did fantastic historical work about all the original papers of Weber and Maxwell and the like, also Mach's principle.
So I can already tell, I was just scrolling through some of this stuff here. I can tell this redshift part is where Chris Leto, I know he's all in on tired light theory. I am too, actually, to be perfectly honest with you, is that the redshift is that we've been blaming the redshift on the expansion of the universe. But if there is an ether, then the redshift is going to be explained by the light itself losing energy as it traverses through the medium. And that's going to throw out the Big Bang entirely, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, the variable speed of light I want to look at. This optics thing is really interesting because optics, holography, is much closer connected to teleportation than what people understand. For some reason, I don't really understand it. Optics, how we see stuff, is directly connected to literal teleportation. And the only way I can rationalize it with my limited understanding is that we live in a holographic universe and what we're seeing is only a projection. When I see something sitting over there, like my light, it's not really sitting over there. It's actually sitting on a plate where it's being projected. And therefore I see it like it looks like it's sitting over there when it's not. That's the only way I can wrap my brain around it. And so that's why I think that unifying optics with relativity is so huge. If you look at the experiments for double slit experiment and holography, they're very similar. They have to do with splitting laser beams and then recombining them using interferometers. Okay, so the thing I do want to see is the variable speed of light has issues. Let's
fundamental constant, and it has the physical units of an angular momentum. Couldn't it be that it's the angular momentum of the proton surrounding on the orbit around it? That was another visionary idea that is also not enough appreciated. As I said before, Newton's bold idea isn't appreciated, and people don't realize today how bold, how important, how
So this is something that Sal was talking about. It's the angular momentum. Is that when you really look at everything from the quantum mechanical perspective, you start to realize it's all about spin. Planck's constant, h bar right here. See this reduced Planck's constant at the top left, h bar? It's all about spin, and therefore it's all about frequency. Once you realize that, this is why Sal and Dave are talking about the Zitterbuergong, because they're realizing if it's all about spin, then everything, we don't see it, but everything out there is connected and spinning in unison or spinning in some kind of formation. And that what we're really in is a equilibrium of energy where everything's spinning around. That's why Sal says vibration or increased frequency are the secrets to this. Because if something's spinning around, then how do we interact with it? We need to get everything aligned. We need everything in a region of space to be perfectly aligned in one direction. Okay, let's see what we got. Hey, Ashton, I found a CIA file on transportation phenomenon of an ionized non-isothermal plasma. Wondering if you could look at it. Yeah, it sounds good. Put that in our Discord. I might have seen it. It's hard to say. Ionized non-isothermal plasma. Those are all the right words. Okay, so let's keep going on this.
Flash of genius Bohr's insight was here. And historically, to be fair, there was another guy even involved. Anyway, I think angular momentum is indeed the path we have to follow. And then you have H, of course, popping up in this angular momentum operators. Once you commute the, say, X and Y angular momentum, make the commutator, you get the angular momentum in this third direction. And this is related to the concept, and it's a purely mathematical concept of non-commutativity. It's like Lipton book, clockwise, anti-clockwise, and then you don't end up with the original state. You have changed something. Or take Rubik's Cube. No, you play around with one turn, another turn, turn back. You have changed your cube.
Something different. So that's
non-commutativity. And I think the non-commutativity we observe in the angular momentum operators in quantum mechanics tells us something very fundamental about the nature of H. That's just a hypothesis, a working hypothesis of mine. So what we could do is, just.
So it's funny because people are close. This guy's close. He's probably some PhD physicist or something like that, right? He's so close. This is where Sal's been saying, if you look at the equations, you realize that quantum mechanics actually does explain everything. We just have to look at energy as space is not being empty as this field where everything's oscillating in all different directions. So what is then polarizing the vacuum? Polarizing the vacuum is getting all those oscillations to line up. Just get your oscillations to line up. How simple is this, guys? The secret to all this shit is quantum mechanics. We've got stuff shooting around in every damn direction in this region of space right here. All we need to do is polarize it. We need to get it all lined up in one way or another. We do that, and then we push out all the other entropy. You push out all the stuff that's going in other directions. This is engineering the vacuum, engineering space-time. This is why Hal Puthoff deserves a Nobel Prize. It was his idea, engineering the vacuum, polarizable vacuum. That's what he's talking about. This is why, of course, a magnetic motor can work. It's just complicated. Why? Because what are we doing? We're churning up the ether. We're taking all these random fluctuations and you are applying order to them using permanent magnets. And in the process, you are producing energy. A lot of that energy is being radiated outward, and we're not capturing it. And we now need to capture it within a circuit where we can power something. That's the secret to all of this stuff, guys. That's why they don't want to tell the truth about the videos, is that there's this whole branch of physics that they've just been lying to us about. Now, let's see what scalar waves in the ether are possible. We know the answer is scalar waves are possible in the ether. Let's see what this guy says.
And I was a fighter pilot, actually, and we use scalar weapons, actually. You know, a bomb is basically, most of the damage it does is called blast. When you knock down a building, and that's a scalar weapon, right? It's exploding so fast that it pressurizes the air, so it sends a pressure wave, a longitudinal wave, and knocks down buildings and kills obviously. So I guess the argument is you can't, from my understanding, you can't have scalar waves if you don't have a medium to transfer through. So this is why if you don't have an ether, then a scalar wave doesn't work in the vacuum of space. You know, so what I postulate is, if there is an ether, and maybe this is what has been hidden. When David Grush says he was angriest when he said the astrophysics has been hidden, and he was a physicist, actually. So if you had a real ether, and maybe that, and assume, just for speculation effect, that there is an ether, it's not in nothing in space. Could you have scalar electronic electromagnetic waves in a scalar sense? And could this be what we're detecting as gravity waves? And then finally, could that be what we're seeing as baryonic acoustic oscillations? Is actually, if there, I was just considering how could scalar waves exist? Because scalar waves.
What do you think? Your thoughts are very interesting, but forget about the baryonic acoustic oscillations.
Forget it. Okay.
It's just, it's just a fashion on top of sophisticated analysis, which is flawed at the bottom line.
Okay,
that's my opinion. To be short, track.
Yeah.
But what you said is interesting.
Okay, everything Chris Leto said is 100% real, and all you need to know that it's real is all you have to do is Google Hal Puthoff patent. Hal Puthoff is the godfather of zero-point energy, the oldest man on Earth right now that has been in black projects related to it. And he quite literally has a scalar communication system. Why do I call it a gravity communication system? For the same reason why Chris Leto just said, couldn't you say that a scalar potential through the ether is a gravity wave? Yes, that's exactly what it is. You're creating a potential that has no electromagnetic field, but it's a ripple through the ether. That's a wave through the ether that we cannot detect electromagnetically. That's like us sitting on this ocean of energy, and the ocean's going like this. What would that look like? What would that feel like? These are little perturbations in gravity. The planet Earth represents this type of gravity. We're adding gravity to this region. This would be us on Earth. So the opposite would be removing that energy. Sending a ripple through this, we can send a longitudinal wave. This is what the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect shows. The Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect shows that potentials can exist outside of your electromagnetic fields. If that's true, that means there must be an ether. It's crazy how easy they were able to hide a major aspect of physics from us. The ether is real. There is a medium. This opens the door to all of this stuff. That's all we had to realize. Hal Puthoff is like 89 years old. He's like 89. Okay, here we go, guys. We're almost done.
If you consider ether theories, and the right way to do is that doing elasticity, nonlinear elasticity also, that was done in the 19th century, but a lot of British physicists, one of them, or Irish physicists, one of them McCulloch, and he realized that there are indeed necessarily two speeds of light, one longitudinal and one transverse. So transverse. So why do we observe only one, which is the speed of light? The answer is, or the answer McCulloch proposed is, this ether has to be incompressible. That's the key thing. If you have an incompressible ether, I mean, you could possibly imagine this. It's kind of a simple assumption. Then the speed of your longitudinal waves would be indeed infinite. And doesn't exist in that respect. So this would be a solution or an explanation where you can develop this ether model without bothering with other types of waves. Just they don't exist because it's incompressible. No. The other thing is, I mean, you could speculate that there is a slight.
So the answer to that, I don't really understand. This is the part where it's like these people come up with excuses that don't really answer the questions. Why does space have to be incompressible for the ether to exist? How about the reason why we don't see different speeds of light is because the whole of space and time is in equilibrium. It's already in equilibrium. We're not new in this universe. This universe has been out there for a long time. And it's in an equilibrium state, which means no matter where we look in it, we're still in the fishbowl. Everywhere we look, we're still in the fishbowl. As long as we're in the fishbowl, light's always going to be moving at the same rate. The moment we look outside of the fishbowl, now light's going to move at a different speed. How do we do that? We change the refractive index of the medium. We change the permittivity, the electric permittivity of the medium. If you change the electric permittivity of the medium, you change the speed of light. And what did we just learn? We learned that space itself is a medium that we can polarize. So now we're starting to see the electromagnetic fields can polarize an area of space. Imagine in this region of space, all the arrows are pointed up. They're all lined up. Everywhere else outside of this region, they're all in every other direction. That's what we're trying to do conceptually. Let's see what he has to say.
Compressibility, and that would lead to different speeds. I wouldn't call that even electromagnetic wave. That would be another wave traveling faster necessarily. I mean, even if you fine-tune the elastic constants, the longitudinal speed is always faster than the transverse. You can prove that. That's in books of elasticity. So that would be just another idea of how to build alternative theories. But I mean, nobody would notice right now because conventional theory would claim that gravitational waves move with the speed of light as well.
Here's another example too, which is a great one. It's all about pinching and releasing. Nobody asks like, "Hey, why is your shirt like that? Why is your shirt not ripping apart?" Because it's in an equilibrium state. I could rip this shirt apart if I pull on it. This is what gravity is. Why we are experiencing the pull of planet Earth sitting on top of this equilibrium energy. And what causes that? It causes gravity. This pull effect or pinch effect, right? We just don't see that because generally the universe is a pretty stable place. But if we watch two black holes or two neutron stars hitting each other, we can see the space-time compressing. We can see the gravitational ripples get formed. This is what LIGO figured out in 2015, which is why the Laser Interferometer Observation Lab, LIGO, whatever, this is why finding out that gravity waves are real is so huge. Guys, this is like, to show you guys how brainwashed we are, the fact that gravity waves exist should tell us that space is a medium. That should be all we need to know. We learned that gravity waves exist. The public learned that in 2015. Have we changed any of our physics views? Nope. None at all. Even though the people that predicted gravity waves would exist, they were mostly the electric universe people. They're mostly the electric universe people that are going, no, it must be a medium. So a scalar potential is quite literally a gravitational ripple through the ether. That's what gravity is. That's what gravity is.
In my view, it's not satisfactory either. And well, I still have my doubts about the interpretation, but I mean, that's another issue. Let's maybe not touch gravitational wave business here. Yeah, but the question is, how can we build an insightful model? And the ether is definitely something to consider here. I would say that the incompressible ether of McCulloch in 1839 was a good idea in that respect. Yeah.
My question though is if like water is not compressible, yeah, so
almost incompressible, but there is a slight compressibility, and that leads to a huge speed of light. Speed of sound in the water, right?
So that's why it's faster in water than air, because it is it faster?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why, because water is much more incompressible than air, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's the square root of there. I mean, in there is the density and the compressibility. So water is much denser, which would lead to a smaller speed of light, but it's so much less compressible that still it surpasses the speed of longitudinal sound also in air. But you have the square. You just write down the physical units, because you have density, it's kilograms per cubic meters, and you have elasticity, which is newtons per square meters, and then you take the square root to combine that.
Okay, I've seen enough. Okay, so, man, first of all, thank you for this donation. Don't worry, I've got your Discord invite right here in the chat, wherever I just put it. Here it is. I don't know if I can even talk to some of these physicists, man. Man, we're just so far beyond them at this point. It's like, I respect that they spent so much of their life researching this stuff, and I don't want to be a dick to them. At the same time, it's like we've figured out the next level, and they're stuck in the past. Like this guy's out here going, yeah, the ether does kind of make sense, and we've already figured it out. The ether is the thing we've been missing. It's all about 0-point energy and this quantum mechanics solution. It unifies it all together. And you look at that and you go, man, physics is going to take like another 10 years before they come to terms with just the ether part, right? Like you can see the change happening. Even Sabine Hassenfelder even did a video on the ether, the ether that's consistent with Einstein physics, the one that we're talking about. And you can see that these people are going to figure it out. They're eventually going to figure it out. We are knocking on that door. We are actually like pushing them towards it, because you've got this guy out there, Ashton Forbes, and his merry band of MH370X followers who are screaming off the rooftops about the ether and 0-point energy. It would be awkward if they didn't address it. It would be awkward if they didn't address it. So, I mean, it's just the truth, you know, at the end of the day, we've figured out this physics and we're waiting for everybody to catch up to it. Because we're like, hey, understanding the ether is real is only step one. Understanding the ether is real is great. Now you can understand where gravity is coming from. Now you can understand how we can manipulate gravity. And now you can understand where we can produce free energy from the ether. This is where all energy is coming from. So, boy, I don't know, guys. We got a ways to go, chat. That's all I know is we got a ways to go. We're in this for the long haul. It's not going to be a rush. If we get, like, just put it this way, at any little bit that we do, we are pushing humanity like years closer to accepting this than normally we would. I don't joke when I say, like, we probably would have taken another 100 years to accept this physics and science. Like, we would all be dead before everybody's going to accept this. But we saw it on 2 videos, and we found the history, and we know it's real, and we might be able to push that time scale up tenfold to the point where people are accepting this science in 10 years as opposed to 100 years. That's a huge increase. So pat yourselves on the back, guys. I appreciate all you guys in the chat. Everybody who's been listening to the live streams, thank you very much for supporting and following. We will have our next live stream on Friday. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be about. We'll see what comes up, but we most likely will be talking about plasma and trying to really dig in and find out exactly how we can make a ball of plasma. In fact, we have 2 lists of equipment. We might look at those lists as well and try to piece together like who out there is doing this now. We might even be able to find people that are already doing this, that are they're like flying under the radar, and they're like calling it something else, but they're really producing like EVOs. So We'll see you guys. Anyway, thank you guys. MH270X. You guys have a great night. I will talk to you soon. I'll throw the Discord invite in the chat as we close out. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Let's go with this one. We haven't played this one a little bit.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. Spears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. And roles in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to